Now turn up.
What up is Marcus' Dynasty Football Dads. We are doing a video here just to kind of update yourself on what's going on in the rookie world. Has anything changed? Has people moved up, people moved down? What kind of strategies are we utilizing? So the biggest kind of first thing I always go through is, of course, Superflex and 1QB. There are huge differences in both, but let's start with Superflex. In Superflex, I've had a lot of questions. 102, 103, 104, what am I doing there? And in almost all cases, I am taking the best quarterback available in the first 4 picks. There's reasons for it, but a lot of times when you have a team that has a top 4 pick, you are looking 1, 2, 3 years down the road. You are a team that is rebuilding. And I'm going to assume when you have an early pick that you are in rebuild mode, and if you're a later pick that you are in contender mode. That is not always the case, but we're just going to assume that to make this video simple and easy. And that's going to be the majority of the cases. So if you have a beginning pick, I am choosing QB because it has the longest kind of period of stability, of value, you could say. When you have a quarterback, they could be around for 5, 10, 15 years. This is different than any other position. Of course, wide receivers, they're not going to be around for 15 years. Running backs, they might not even be around for 5 years. And even at the tight end position, they might not be around for 10, 15 years as well. So we are trying to find out what kind of players can spike in value and keep that value. So quarterbacks, 1 through 4, like that is going to be who I'm primarily targeting. It's assuming you only have 1 pick. There's a lot of variables when it comes to rookie drafting. If you also have pick, let's say 6, or if you have 2 and 4, what am I doing there? Or if I have 3 and 5, what am I doing? That's a big key and big difference. And also how you feel like your draft mates are going to go and if you can trade or not. These are all so many different variables that your mind's probably just going, oh my goodness, what do I do? And it's hard to sometimes give recommendations and advice based on just a simple kind of explanation when there's so many different variables going on. Because, like, for example, if you pick 103 and 105 and you desperately need a tight end and you're in Superflex, well, go for Kyle Pitts at 103 and then go for that quarterback at 105 because you know one of those quarterbacks are going to drop. And I don't have a big difference between QB 2, 3, and 4, which is Fields, Lance, and Wilson in that order. So there are a lot of different strategies and different things to do. So update kind of on what just kind of a simplistic version. If you had 1 pick and we're assuming early, if you have an early first, you're a contender, early first, you're a rebuilder, late first, you're a contender. We have an early first, I'm saying pick QB, pick a QB. Quarterbacks are going to be what you absolutely need. If you're into that middle kind of first, if one of those QBs doesn't drop, I'm looking at players like Kyle Pitts and the running backs for specific reasons now. Specific reasons that our demand is going to be greater for those positions, running back and tight end, because teams, contenders, or anybody they're going to need running backs and they're going to need a tight end. I mean, there's only 5, maybe-ish, 6 good ones. So there's other teams that are going to need a tight end. So that value is going to continue. And I think even if Kyle Pitts has the worst year you could imagine, his value is still going to have, the hype is still going to be there. I think even if he has 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, and is a huge disappointment, I think you're going to say, well, Kyle Pitts, tight end 2-year breakout, kind of like Mike Gesicki. If he even does bad then, you'll be like, oh, tight end 3 is the year breakout. So you have kind of this 3-year window with Kyle Pitts. And so he's been kind of slowly moving up my rankings for that specific reason. Running backs, they're in high demand. If you feel like you cannot trade, like there is no trading in your league, A, you're in not a very good league. And 2, I would then start drafting some of these wide receivers over these running backs because you're in rebuild mode, unless you're trying to fill in a position. When you're in the like 6, 7, 8 range, you might only need a player or 2 to kind of fill that gap. So running back, wide receivers, kind of like, okay, where do I fill that gap? But if you're still if you still think, oh, I'm 12, 18, 24 months out, then I am drafting that running back if I can trade him, or wide receiver if I cannot trade, which is kind of a poor league to be a part of. Well, why do I draft running backs over wide receivers? Is because when you draft running backs, and let's say if you hit like a Jonathan Taylor, or even some of these other running backs like J.K. Dobbins or even DeAndre Swift, their value is going to be so great and it's going to be so hard to acquire those players in the upcoming drafts. I don't feel super confident about the 2022 draft, 2023, yes, but that is 2 years down the road that you're going to have to probably rely on a rookie to help your team win a championship. So you can see how risky that might be down the road. And I don't like to wait 2-3 years out. I like to try to win now and try to build now. So let's say you're a late first. What are you doing? You are just trying to fill in the spot that you need to win a championship, or I am trading that pick away for a different player. So ultimately, you're like, well, this is not much rookie talk. So I'll just kind of go through the general consensus here in the first round. For early first, quarterback, mid first, running back is what I would prefer if you, in majority of cases. Then the wide receivers, so we're talking the big three of Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, in that order. Then I'm starting to get to the wide receivers of Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, kind of that tier one. We get into the tier two, both Moores and Bateman, and that kind of group there. And that would conclude the end of the first into the early second. In one QB, it's the exact same thing, except the quarterbacks are now shifted all into the second round, mostly early to mid, and Trevor Lawrence kind of stays into that late first. That's all that changes. And so basically running backs, super early. You're talking about 101, 102, 103. Then probably either Kyle Pitts or one of the three wide receivers. I prefer Chase, Devontae Smith, very, very close neck and neck, 1A, 1B. And then Jalen Waddle, kind of like a little slish, a little bit. So you could say maybe he's like a tier 1B kind of thing. And then we're going to go into the tier two of Batemans and Moores. It sounds like a band. Batemans and Moores. Batemans and Moores. And then we'll get into like the Terrace Marshall. I don't know if I said that right. Terrace Marshall. Then we'll start getting even into some of the other players as well, like Devon Ross St. Browns, and Amari Rodgers, and then into the early quarterbacks as well. Like if you need a Justin Fields, but one QB leagues, you really don't need to necessarily get a good quarterback. If you're looking at, again, if I'm looking at getting a quarterback in one QB or super flex, I don't care if it's 102 or 104. I feel like it's the same value. So I am trying to trade from 102 to 104, or if I'm having an early second, I am trying to trade to get into that mid second and maybe pick up a second next year, or a third next year, or a third this year, along those lines, something. Or I'm just trading that early second for a actually already established quarterback. So like maybe even like, Baker's kind of on that board, but like even Matthew Stafford along those lines. I mean, he's easily, you should be able to get him for an early second. If you can't, find a different owner and go after Ryan Tannehill. Especially if you're competing. Now, early second usually means you're in rebuild, so I just take the rookie if you're in the rebuild. So that, or if Aaron Rodgers, if that owner's panicked, early second. It's one QB leagues. One QB leagues, you can find a QB. You find enough owners like me who don't really care about one QBs or one quarterbacks in one QB leagues, and that's kind of why they're not as fun, because you don't really care about them. It's a position that you don't scratch off. But I mean, I've had leagues where I've had Stafford and Carr. I'm like, all right, I'm fine, like until they both get hurt, and then you're stuck with, I think it was Andy Dalton. Then you're like, oh crap, I have a contending team with Andy Dalton. That's no fun. All right, but those things do happen. So rookie drafts, that is kind of the update. Nothing's really changed much. Yeah, so I think Kyle Pitts is just kind of slowly moving up. Just because I see kind of the need, the demand, and I can see a narrative where it's like, even if he has a horrible year, you're going to still have values year two. Horrible, if he does a horrible year, which horrible year still might mean like 10 and 14, then you're going to have another, hey, it's tight end 3-year breakout. And you're still going to have value with Kyle Pitts. I think what you're going to have to draft him for is going to be a pricey penny. But again, tight end is that unique position that is very valuable when it comes to and tight end premium. We haven't gotten to tight end premium. If it has to be like 2-point PPR versus 1-point PPR, then that is when I'm starting to say, okay, 101, Kyle Pitts, 2-point PPR. I'm okay with him going 101. I'm okay with it. Am I going to do that? Maybe not. All right. So this is Marcus Dynasty Fun Dads. Peace out. We'll see you tomorrow.
Now turn up.